I believe I was terminated because I did not go along with making my officers have a quota for citations.
You may remember last month the town of Manaway abruptly fired its police chief without explanation, and now documents obtained by the Fox 13 investigative team paints the chief as insubordinate and out of control. But the chief says this was all about something that could affect drivers from across Utah. We're talking about speeding tickets. Here's Fox 13 investigative reporter Nate Carlisle.
Manaway, we did a lot in the 8 months that I was there.
Michael Castro is out of uniform and out of a job these days.
I am very proud of what we accomplished in such little time and with very little budget.
He'd been chief of police and one of just 2 full-time officers in Manaway, population 1,000, for 8 months. Then on March 25th, he was called to a meeting with the mayor and a town council member. That's where he was presented with one of the documents Fox 13 obtained through a public records request, a letter putting Castro on probation.
The mayor tried to place Chief Castro on probation for not answering calls for service, but the citizens who made those calls say Castro and the police did a good job.
One episode described in the letter accuses Castro of failing to investigate a report of stalking. The homeowner told Fox 13 she only called a town employee asking how to report a suspicious vehicle, not stalking. And, in fact, a police officer did follow up with her. In another episode, Castro is accused of not responding to a report of a suspicious vehicle at 2:30 in the morning. When reached by Fox 13, that homeowner said it was the dispatcher at the county seat in Brigham City who was dismissive of her call. A Manaway police officer followed up the next day. Both homeowners cited in the probation letter declined to go on camera, but said they were concerned their reports were being misconstrued to disparage Castro.
About halfway through reading it, I told them that I wasn't going to sign it or continue reading it because it was not accurate.
So why does Castro think city leaders were really upset with him?
I believe I was terminated because I did not go along with making my officers have a quota for citations.
He means speeding tickets. The town sits on U.S. Highway 8991. The speed limit is 65 miles per hour. Manaway has such a reputation as a speed trap that that's the reason the Utah legislature in 2018 passed a bill banning ticket quotas at police departments. Castro says the mayor and at least one city council member often discuss the need for officers to write tickets.
From what I've been told every time was that this is how they've conducted business for the last 30 years. And
was there a number, either in terms of citations issued or revenue generated, that you were told to hit?
It was never written down. I was given 2 numbers always, anywhere between 3 to 5 citations a day. And also my sergeant, when he was accepted to do full-time, when he was granted the full-time position, was told 6 per shift.
Manaway has budgeted $195,000 for its police department in the current fiscal year.
I was then told that the $110,000 out of that $195,000 was projection on citations from the police department.
In other words, Castro and his cops were responsible for funding about 3/5 of their own budget. That is not typical. In most cities, police are paid from sales or property taxes. Castro did have his officers, which included about a dozen part-timers, watch for speeders on the highway for up to 3 hours every shift, but he allowed those officers to only issue warnings if they saw fit. Castro says all this came to a head in that March 25 meeting where he refused to sign the letter that would have put him on probation.
At that point, the mayor got very angry and basically told me that I work under his authority. And then I said, absolutely. However, it's got to be legal. I was not using any profanity at all. I did not use any profanity until the mayor started using profanity and dropping the F-bomb.
Castro's termination letter claims he went on a tirade, shouting and screaming and accusing Mayor Michael Johnson and Councilmember Pam Eves of trying to get rid of him. The letter says staff elsewhere in the building heard the shouting, and one person was so worried Castro would turn violent, she texted her husband a farewell note.
They came out to the hallways when I was leaving. So if they're so scared that I'm going to become violent, why are they there to see me off?
Mayor Johnson also used to be Manaway's police chief. He declined an interview request. In an email, he acknowledged Manaway has long relied on citations to fund its police. Minutes from an April 1 town council meeting cite Johnson as saying Castro was not fired for anything having to do with citations or the budget. However, the Box Elder News Journal recently quoted Johnson as saying traffic fines can put a pretty good dent in funding the police. Castro is focused on finding a new job in law enforcement rather than fighting to get his old job back.
It's just not worth it for me.
In Manaway, Nate Carlisle, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Fox 13 reached out to the mayor of Manaway today to find out how many officers are now policing the town. We have not yet heard back. Coming up in just a few minutes, Nate will be on Facebook Live to take your questions on this investigation. You can join the conversation on the Fox 13 News Facebook page. And if you have a story you'd like the Fox 13 investigative team to look into, you can email iteam@fox13now.com or call the tip line 801-536-1314.